right, welcome to the Ref Room, everybody. It is Monday, and it is our day to talk hockey. I am Scott Smokin Silz, coming to you from Chicago, along with my man, Mr. Brad Baumruck, our local referee in chief, coming to you from the far south sticks. And
Yes.
I can't believe it, man. Our year's over. Did you even look at the calendar? This is our last show of the season.
Yeah, I told you. it was going to go fast.
I mean, wow, we've got over 150 episodes that we've done together. We were only going to do this for 3 weeks, remember? But we got over 150 episodes in the can done that you guys can watch on YouTube, of course. And this will be our last show of the season because it's the holiday season, and then we've got New Year's. So Christmas and New Year's the next 2 weeks. So we won't be back probably until first week of January, I guess. Man,
yeah, that'll be the 8th.
Yeah,
January
something like
8th.
that. Something like that. Yeah, I can't believe it. I mean, it seems like we just started the season and it's just flying by. A lot of good games, been active. Good stuff.
Yeah, playoffs are like right around the corner. I don't know if everybody notices that, but
you can see the
coming.
intensity in the games picking up. I mean, you can see that in the teams. Their intensity level has gone up another notch here at most of the games, and it's just been fun atmosphere. I mean, I worked a high school game on Saturday night. What a great atmosphere. I mean, that building was rocking. It's not really a rivalry game, but they're close enough that it's a rivalry, and there were a lot of students in the building. It just makes for such a great environment. I mean, I wish we'd get that for the AAA teams, because I wish they had like that fan base that would come out and support. I mean, they get people at their games, obviously, but it's not like having a high school that shows up at your game, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it's a little more difficult with those players geographically being so far spread out.
Yeah, exactly.
I get what you're saying. It's kind of like working a college game or a junior game, but even like we have great local college hockey here at NCAA Division III, and nobody goes to those either. So
I know.
It's tough to see, but I think we have a lot of hockey here in Illinois. with the Blackhawks and then the Wolves.
Yeah.
I think it's tough for them to support another team, and the Steel do quite well out in Geneva. I almost said Joliet, but Geneva.
Yeah.
So people go to that, and I can tell you, for the best bang of your buck, I think a Steel game is something that a lot of people don't go to, and they are a lot of fun, and the hockey's really, really good, and you're going to see those players moving up either to NCAA Division I college hockey or into the NHL. I mean, that's their goal.
Yeah, I know. I saw a Steel game a few years ago. They used to take the ADP group at the end of the season and have a little pizza party for us up in one of the skyboxes, I guess you'd call it there, or whatever. But it was a blast. Had a lot of fun. The hockey was great. The environment was great. And if you got a family like nowadays, I mean, gosh, what would it cost to go to a Blackhawks game? I don't even know, because I got to think the tickets are at least a couple $100 a piece. I mean, I'm sure you could find a special or a deal and somehow you get in there. But, a decent seat in the place that's not nosebleed is going to be at least a couple $100 per person. Parking, poor beer is what? Is it $20 yet? It's probably getting close. No. Maybe next season. But, I mean, it's outrageous. So,
I can tell you the times that I've taken my boy, Scott, it's been on tickets that I've gotten for something. And it's because it's unfortunate. It's just how expensive it's gotten. It used to be, expensive, but now it's expensive. Now it's like
beyond.
If you're thinking about it, like $450 or $500 even, like cheap seats and like going the cheap route, people can go to like an indoor water park for 3 days.
Yeah. I didn't really, I don't have kids, so I can't really compare it, but it makes sense. I mean, I know that when Barb and I, we used to get tickets once in a while from the radio station because we had a couple, like 2 sets of 4. And, when the Hawks weren't doing well, we used to get those tickets a lot. And there were 4 that were on the glass, and it was great. And I didn't mind they weren't doing well because that meant I was getting tickets and I could go to the games. But the place was empty. I mean, it was bad. But even doing that, and I'm going back more than 10 years, so I'm going back to before Taves and Kane got here. But you're still looking at Yeah, I know, but you're still looking at a couple $100 to
That's
go
right.
out. I mean, by the time you have a couple beers and a sandwich at the game, and then maybe you go out afterwards and you're parking, and I mean it adds up real fast. So I understand for families, like I know a lot of these kids want to go see their idol, and they certainly want to go see Bedard, I'm sure. And it's so yeah. Look at the steal. Go look at a Cougars game, even down at Fifth Third. The Cougars play down there. Do they charge for that, or is that free?
They're not at Fifth Third anymore.
When did they move?
They're in Bensenville.
No, when did that happen?
This season.
Really? They just got down to Fifth Third. I mean, we lost our referee room to the Cougars. Yeah. So
that shows that they're at Bensenville. So
okay.
Yeah, no, I'm with you though. Like, and I like to take the boys if we can, find a couple of tickets. But I mean, it's even like baseball games now. Baseball games have kind of overpriced themselves.
Oh yeah.
We used to go to the Chicago NASCAR race all the time, and then when it got really expensive, me and my wife were like, I don't think we're gonna take the boys now. Like, we took them to the Friday race because that was cheap, but then the regular one, we're like, all right, see ya. Like, or I just went. So I think just all sports have gotten much more expensive, unfortunately.
No doubt. I mean, it's pricey. Let's face it; these guys are getting big money, and somehow they got to pay for them. So, guess who pays for them? The fans, and it is what it is. All right. So I think today we wanted to talk about something that sounds really basic in hockey, but it's probably one of the things that's the most misunderstood. Should we call it rule or interpretation in ice hockey?
Rules.
It happens. It happens all the time because it's probably the most one of two rules that are called the most during the course of a game. And yet it seems like it should be so simple, but it really isn't. It's not checkers, it's chess. And that rule is icing. Yeah, I know. Sounds pretty basic, like, oh, they're going to talk about icing? Yeah, we're going to talk about icing today because honestly, even at the basic level of hockey, I don't care if you're a level 1 doing your first game, getting icing and getting offsides right takes you from this level to this level, okay? Because honestly, a lot of the other stuff becomes gray area interpretation and angles and views and what you're calling and managing a game. But getting icing and getting offsides right is critical. But icing, I think, is pretty much the misunderstood rule versus offsides is pretty clear, like you're offsides or you're not. But icing, there are a lot of things that come into an icing, and we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that's important to point out, Scott, is icing is one of the rules that you see people get really, really upset on. Like in offsides, you might hear them yell, hey, whatever, like for a second or two, maybe 3, 4, 5. But icing, they'll yell at you the rest of the game, even when you start calling it icing after it. So it's kind of like icing should be one of those rules that we should really hopefully strive to do our best. And, I think one of the things that's funny that I see is what's the first thing that you have to have for icing, Scott? What's the first basic part of it?
Well, you got to have two people that are in agreement on one is initiating it and one is completing it. So we got to have that. We got to have a puck that's coming from beyond or before the red line, the center line.
That's it.
And getting all the way down and crossing the goal line.
Okay. So the first part is you got to have it start behind the center line. Right? Like I see games and it's unfortunate because I work a lot of games and then I see a lot of games where I'm watching or whatever when I'm at the rink or when I show up to see somebody or I just pop in because I got nothing better to do, right? One of the things is, were they behind the center line? And did they sweep it over the line? Because if they've swept it over the line in USA Hockey, that is no longer icing. That icing has been nullified. The next thing about being beyond the center line that I see, and it happens more at the higher levels of hockey, is you'll have a player down near the goal line, the far goal line, and they'll shoot it, and a player that's, 10 feet past the dots, blue line, or their ending line, they'll redirect it. and it goes down the ice, well, guess what? That's still icing, and it gets waved constantly. I see people wave it all the time, and they're not beyond the center line. That second player that touches that puck changes that play. If they're beyond that center line and they touch it, even if it's an inch past it, it's no longer icing.
It's no longer.
But the officials on the back. Oh, go ahead.
No, I think one of the misconceptions comes from a lot of players and a lot of coaches is, let's say that puck is shot from down by the goal line, my goal line going across the red line, but some player near the blue line touches that puck and it's from his own team. Now, if it had been the opposing team, it would nullify the icing. But a lot of times it's touched by their player and it goes down and they're like, well, that was touched. It's touched. Yeah, you got to touch it after the red line, not before the red line, the center line.
Correct.
So, yeah. So I think that's one that's misinterpreted by a lot of people.
The other thing is, too, going to the same point to where it's redirected. You'll see two players, the guy will shoot it from down by the goal line, and there'll be an offensive player, let's say, 10 feet in front of a defensive player, right? They'll redirect it, but they'll change the angle of the puck, or it'll shoot up in the air because of their redirection. Okay? If you change the angle of that puck, which results in an icing that goes past that defensive player, which they would have picked up if you wouldn't have changed the angle, it's icing. If the puck flies up off your stick in the air, so it's changing the angle of it, and goes down the ice, it's icing. You can't waive that because you direct it around the player. Yeah, you can direct it around the player, that's great, but it can't result in an icing.
Right. Well, the other one that's also misconstrued is if you have a, let's say, player fires the puck down, the defenseman is at the blue line, and he's hang
on. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Okay.
I know where you're going with that one. You're getting ahead of yourself.
All right. So you keep the order.
yeah. Let me just finish up this part. So if we do deflect that puck, it's icing. Okay. Where a player takes it and they shoot it right, and it goes past the defenseman. And the defenseman's this far away from the boards, right? Oh, sorry, I'm not in front of the camera. This far away from the boards, right? And he doesn't really play first base, and it goes by him on the first base catching side, as he reaches for it, and it doesn't hit him or anything. That's not icing. He couldn't have gotten that puck. If he can't play it with his stick, it's icing. You can't have a baseball play in a hockey game.
Right.
And expect that player to have to make that play at that blue line in order to stop the icing.
Right.
So I think one of the big things is when you're always looking at icing is you got to look at icing because icing is a play of desperation normally. Okay, 99.9% of the time. They need a line change. They're being just overwhelmed by the other team. Right now, certain levels, you can't ice the puck on shorthanded, so it happens quite then because really those teams, some of them don't have the skill to even skate the puck out at that disadvantage. So you have to look back and look at the play when it starts out. When it starts out, was it a hockey play or was it a play of desperation? If it's a play of desperation, it's an icing every time. If it's a hockey play, you might have a reason to waive it while it's going down the ice.
Right. And let's talk about some of those reasons.
There you go. Okay, so number one is what I like to call the Sega circle. Okay, so for everybody that's played video games, I'm referring back to a Sega circle. We'll go into NHL, okay? All right, NHL by EA Sports. There's still a circle or a star or whatever they got around the guy now. Okay? It's this imaginary line that kind of is about the length of their stick around their body.
Oh, okay. All right, I've seen that before.
And in Sega, Scott, when you used to change which player you were controlling, the circle would move. And it still happens now in NHL. So I refer to it as the Sega circle from back in the day. Cool. If the puck goes through an opposing team's player's Sega circle, it's not an icing. But you have to remember, he doesn't have to be a first baseman, and it has to be on the ice. If it's redirected up in the air, if it hits some funny bump in the ice.
Yeah, okay, I was going to bring that point up, and that is like it hits some sort of imperfection in the ice and the puck goes up 6 inches in the air over their stick, that's
icing.
not their problem. It's still icing. Yes.
Yep. But that's why I left it for the Sega Circle conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's still in that area, but that's normally where it happens. It's really weird. It only happens then. It doesn't happen 20 feet away from the guy.
Right.
Okay. So if it goes through the Sega Circle, that icing is still is nullified at that point. All right. If you shoot it down the ice and it's away from the Sega Circle, okay. So we're talking for referees. So since this is referee program, I can say this. We're going to talk about the no man space, no man's land, right? If it's in no man's land and the player is skating backwards and they turn away from no man's land towards the boards, they're taking the long way to go get the puck. That is a nullified icing. You have to turn with the puck. Whichever way it's going by your body, you need to turn towards the puck. The reason that I gave the no man's land situation is that's something that we've all seen in the books, all seen in seminars, and you can differentiate between what's in the middle of the ice, and if you're turning away, why would you be turning away if it's in no man's land? So you can't turn away from the puck. The next thing is, as the puck is going down the ice, okay, as the puck slides, and the player's skating after it, and the player's gaining, okay, as a puck slides across the ice, naturally, by physics, it is going to start to slow down. If the puck speeds up and the player is still skating, we got a problem. They dogged the icing. Okay? You're going to waive that one. If they're skating their butt off and that puck keeps going at the same distance from them,
they get the icing. Yep.
Okay? So you have to make an attempt at it. So, like, where everybody, they'll say, like, hey, you got to leg that one out or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We're looking for them actually to make an attempt for it. But if a puck is sliding on ice, think about it. It's going to slowly start to slow down. That player should never, ever not catch up to it if they were already catching up to it.
That's why we say you have to earn your icing. If you're not making the effort and you're not skating, then they're going to waive that icing on you. There's no reason for you. If we feel you could play that puck or make a pretty good attempt at playing that puck, you better attempt to make that play or you're going to get the icing waived. It's that simple.
Yep, and I'll tell you this, there are some very skilled defensemen out there that when they do turn towards it, what they'll do is it's going by them at such a slow speed, they should hypothetically be able to catch it. But what they'll do is instead of taking the direct turn towards it, they'll take this big wide loop out to the outside and then come back to that spot to where they were again.
Yep.
That's also dogging the icing. So you got to watch out for these things because these things are, unfortunately, ways that icing is nullified. Now, Scott, to bring up your point, I know exactly where you're going. I'm a defenseman. I try to pass it up to my winger that's standing beyond the center line. That opposing defenseman steps up and picks that guy's stick up, and bang, it goes all the way down the ice. No icing.
That's right.
Okay.
Why? Because somebody made a play that caused that icing to complete. Well, we're not completing it, but it got the puck all the way down the ice. Somebody stepped up and made a play on the player. So if you make a check or something, the puck is coming right by the guy, you make a check, and the puck goes down the ice. Guess what?
But hang on. Well, let's clarify this, because if you check that player, it's a penalty underneath the roughing standard or interference. You can't check them. You can stick lift them, but you can't check them. Now, what I'd like to point out about this particular play right here is it is 99.9% of the time a hockey play that started out that the defensive team broke up. So if you revert back to, was it a hockey play? You have a good chance of it getting waived, right? It wasn't an act of desperation. So those are just some things. Scott, I don't think I missed anything else.
There's one more. Yeah, there's one more. Well, and that would be, let's say there's a line change going on.
Oh,
and you decided to come over to the bench, and you decided to hop over the bench instead of playing the icing. That's going to waive the icing. So, you are obligated to play the puck. Or let's say you got a scenario where you guys are at the bench making the change, and the puck is fired down the ice. And now you have the choice. Do you want to play that puck and take the penalty for too many men on the ice if your guy just got off the bench and came onto the ice and the other guy has not retired? So you've got a decision to make there, but you're going to have the icing waived on you because you're in the middle of a line change and, you're obligated to play the puck.
Yep. And so the one thing that I see a lot of referees waive icings for, which is absolutely incorrect in USA hockey. The goalie comes out to play the puck, okay? There is no feigning the puck rule that nullifies the icing in USA hockey. They can come out.
That's college.
They can come. Right. Everybody else except for USA hockey.
They can come out and swing at it 20 times and miss, and it's still icing.
They can stand in front of it and wait for it and pick their stick up and watch it go through their feet. Yep. If that puck goes by that goal line, it's icing. If they catch it beyond the goal line, which I've had plenty of coaches yell at me about over the years, it's still icing. Yes, they did play it. The problem is the icing is completed when, Scott?
Well, as soon as the puck fully crosses the goal line, it doesn't mean it has to hit the boards, people. If you're in a tight game and there's an open net and somebody ices that puck and there's 30 seconds left on the clock, the second that puck crosses the goal line is when you hammer the whistle. You don't wait for it to bank off the boards and come back out and then hit the whistle. It's the minute it crosses that goal line completely, that's when it blows. And I actually saw a game we had a few weeks back. We had a really weird, the puck was iced and it hit the post and it just stayed there. But it never crossed the goal line. It dead landed right on the goal post and just stayed there. Well, didn't cross the goal line, so it's not an icing. Can't help you there. Puck's live.
Yeah, so there's actually a good rules question on the test that if a player shoots it from beyond the center line and it goes off the crossbar and goes out of play, where's the face-off?
It's icing. It crossed the goal line as long as it goes over the glass behind the goal line. If it hit the crossbar and goes off to the side,
in front of the goal line, I know where you're talking about.
Right. Then it's not an icing at that point. That actually would be inside the zone. That's a shot on goal, basically, according to USA Hockey. So that puck would actually move up. So there's a tricky one for you, but that's how it would work.
That's why it's on the test.
Exactly. Yep.
So, but yeah, I just wanted to point out the icing, and I think the big thing is people do get very, very upset about icing, and I see it in more common places if you go work men's league, and a lot of guys
I was just going to say, would you like to talk about men's league icing at the different levels?
But it takes. It's funny because, I never had a problem calling icing in men's league. The reason is because if you don't call it, then it takes you twice as long to deal with the players than it would have been just to deal with the icing. So I never understood it, to be honest with you. And number two is most men's leagues, in Illinois at least, I don't know about everywhere else, they play far blue line icing anyway, so you barely have it anyways.
Yeah.
So, it irks me when it happens, but I know people waive it, but let's not get into the
Let's explain that to people,
part.
what we are saying there, because you're not going to find that in a rule book, okay? What they mean is we eliminate the center line for men's league. There's no center line. So it's the blue line. So once you cross your own blue line and you put the puck down the ice, there's no longer icing. The puck would have to be fired from before your blue line. And really, that is, as you want to call it, I wouldn't call it the Sega circle here, but the reason being, it's the team is in trouble. So, if there's play down in the zone and they fire it out from down near the goal line or in front of the net, they're trying to get out of trouble. They're trying to get that whistle. There's trouble. So you should definitely give them that icing and bring that puck back down. Depending on the level of play, if you're in a, I'll call it a D league or a kind of a learn to skate situation, you could have icing all night long for no reason because it's errant passes that mean nothing. It's still icing.
You got to revert.
But but you have to know what you're doing in that situation.
Also, you can revert back to that. Was there a hockey play there being made? or was it actually icing? Because, again, it's a desperation play. Yeah. I think that's the best way to think about it. We're not going to get into hybrid icing or any of that, all those things, because let's just get the USA hockey one down.
Let's just leave it at that, because it's still a confusing enough rule, especially for somebody that's new, that's just starting out, because we see this even with newer linesmen that are coming on in a 3 official or 4 official system. Hey, I did that right finally. In the 3 or 4 official system, you will see that from time to time where, it's like, that one should have been waived. Why? Because there was a line change at the bench at the time the puck went down there. Things like that. Or the guy's just not skating, or the player is just like dogging it back because they want to make sure they get the whistle. Little things like that. Or somebody stepped up and did the stick lift, whatever. Recapping all the reasons why, basically.
And I'll say this, like, when you start to work higher levels, there will be probably a more senior official out on the ice with you, and if they come up and they're like, hey, that's not icing, like, and then they tell you why, you might want to pay attention to them and then go look it up if you need to. But normally, in higher level games, when a referee's like, hey, that's not icing, it's because they're like, we just stopped the play here. We dragged it all the way down when they legally gained that ice. I don't want you getting killed. Like, they don't want you to get yelled at. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, whenever I see, like, an error in icing, I'm like, oh, like, okay. And I'm like, all right, we got it. Like, it is what it is, but how can we fix this for the future? Like, and I'll wheel by and just be hey, it doesn't need to be icing.
As long as we're on that subject of the errant icing, let's just bring this back out here so everybody can hear it loud and clear.
Okay, go ahead.
If the officials error on the icing, where is the face-off?
USA Hockey last play.
No, it's not at center ice, people. But I can tell you, my men's league game the other night, puck was shot on goal. They still called icing. And guess where they took the face-off? Out to center ice. All I did was say, thank you, appreciate it, because guess what? We'd have been in our own zone. It happens, folks. But know where it goes, okay? So many coaches. I don't know if it's because they all played college hockey or they might have thought they played in the show. Some of them have, not all of them. But at any rate, guys, girls, it goes last play face-off. If that puck was down in the end zone near your bench, that's where the face-off is, down in the end zone on the bench side. Wherever we stop play, that's where that face-off takes place. I'm not going to say I'm the biggest fan of that. I would opt for a neutral zone face-off personally, but that's not the way it works. That's where it is. That's something that I would like to see changed. And if you guys want to write in, everybody can write in to get your rule changes that you'd like to see. That's one that I'd like to see. I'd like to see it go to the neutral zone. Not necessarily to center ice, because that's an advantage, but the neutral zone.
And actually, Scott, I actually heard an old icing rule quoted, and I hadn't heard it. It had to be 15 years, maybe even longer. And it was shot down the ice, no goalie in the net, misses the net, goes through the crease. Coach was dead adamant that it went through the crease and the icing was nullified. And I was like, yeah, 20 years ago.
20 at least 20, because I've been doing this for 13 years, and I remember that rule when I was a kid. If it went through the crease, that waived the icing. And back then, we didn't have the circular, the circular crease came from Canada. It used to be circular. We had a square crease, a rectangular crease. Yeah. And then you got to Canada and they had a circular crease. And then they added the corners to the circle. We saw that for a period of time where you had the circle and then you just had little corners that were added. So you knew, like, okay, if you play rectangle, this is where the rectangle is. If you play circle, here's the circle. And then they added the blue ice for us to complete the whole puzzle that they had created. But times have definitely changed. But yeah, that used to be the case. And I've heard people argue that in the men's league before it went through the crease. It can go through the crease all day long. It's still going to be an icing, okay?
And Scott, to make the crease even more complex, the truncated crease where the corners are cut off, that's So in USA Hockey, you're supposed to mentally picture those circles in there. Those corner parts that are cut off the crease when it's like got that, the triangle. It's supposed to be like this, right?
Yep.
If that's cut off that crease, that part is still part of the crease. You're supposed to visualize that on the ice for people to know. Just to point that out about crease rules. But we can talk about that on a different show because
but our crease rule in USA is the blue paint.
It's not a trunny, but some of the rinks don't have the full crease painted on the ice. They have the cut off corners.
Okay.
You're still supposed to use the entire crease, not the trunnigated crease. I think that's the word.
Yeah, and like the difference in Canada and USA, Canada, you can be in the crease and have a goal. In the US, you can't be in. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's an open-ended crease compared to a closed crease in the USA Hockey.
That's right. All right. So hopefully we've confused everybody and you'll be ready for holiday season tournaments.
Playoffs!
Right.
But at least icing will hopefully be better.
Yeah. Yep. So that's, I don't know. Anything else you want? Okay. I got one. We have these little plastic knobs that go in the end of the sticks.
Oh, okay. I know where you're going with
this. All right. And pretty much, I'm not going to say every game, but probably every other game, you end up with one or two of those coming out of the sticks and ending up on the ice. Not a big deal. Hey, we've always said, hey, real simple, put a piece of tape over it or wrap, a piece of tape and wrap it. It'll never come out of there. But what did I see this past week that came on an email? They are now making custom plugs for your stick with your name on them. So you can get your name and number on there on the plug of your stick.
Beautiful.
So I'm guessing, I don't know who dreamed that one up, but that's only going to mean we're going to have more plugs out on the ice because now nobody's going to put a piece of tape over it because they'd be covering their name up, which defeats the purpose why they bought the thing in the first place. But I thought, for a Christmas present, that's what everybody's going to get. They're going to get a custom name plug in their stick. So we're going to be picking those things up forever. So I just thought I'd throw that one out there.
I pick them up and I give them to the scorekeeper box. What happens to them after that? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm not in a real big hurry to find somebody's stick plugs ownership. I give it to the scorekeeper box. If somebody comes and gets it, they get it. They don't. I mean, they're going to have names. Well,
now we'll know
it's
Little Johnny's stick plug because it says Little Johnny right on there. So.
It's like a bowling ball.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought that was. Right. I thought that one was funny. I figured we could end on that one.
All right, that's fine with me.
All right. Anybody got anything else? Let's just say hello to a few people real quick. Alan, our favorite scorekeeper from Skokie, is checking in. He says, "How's Frankie?" Frankie was. Well, she was right here. She disappeared. I don't know. She's always close by. And there she is. There she is. So if you see my hand going, you know that Frankie's right there. He says, happy holidays to everybody. Brian Kenny, last night, good to see you, buddy. I saw you at the rink. Oops, I grabbed the wrong thing there. I was trying to elongate that. The turn the wrong way is the old Duncan Keith trick. Yeah. Well, Duncan Keith he knew how to use those edges coming out, so he was good at it. He says, something I've seen a few times lately, offensive player will be first to the puck on icing, but it's waved before the offensive player touches it, while the puck still may reach the goal line. Well, as long as the puck reaches the goal line, it doesn't matter who's in front of the puck.
It has to do with, is there going to be a collision caused possibly by that situation? So that's a much more advanced level of officiating. You get into that, it's at much higher levels. So I don't think I'll share that here, but there is a process to determining if you're going to have a collision and when that should be waved off. In other words, so the best thing I can say to keep it as basic as possible for all levels of hockey is if the players have got to the top of the circles and you have not made a decision if it's going to be icing or not, it's icing. Okay? Like, don't sit there and think about it afterwards, because that's when you're going to have a collision in that dangerous spot. Like, there's much more into it at higher levels of icing, but if you have not made a decision by the time those players get to that top of that circle, just
and that decision needs to be loud so both those players can hear that decision, because that gives them the decision as to whether they're going full steam ahead or if they can back off now. So be aware of that one.
Yep.
Because that can be a dangerous play, and that's why we do have instant icing here in USA Hockey. It's a safety thing.
If you're the front official and you do have that possibility for icing, yell it. Ice, ice. We got an ice, baby. We got an ice. At least they are aware of it. Like the guy skating in front of the other guy might have no clue that guy's behind him.
Yeah.
So at least you give them a chance to defend themselves if you do waive it. So, but I'm just pointing that out as basic as possible so that we don't.
Brian, that's a really good comment though, because that's something we definitely needed to touch on and make everybody aware of. So that's a really good one. It's good seeing you last night too. You ran out of there. I was going to have you thrown out of the arena when I saw you, but you were walking out anyway. It was a men's league game.
So big security was there.
Right. Lots of yellow jackets. No. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah, good to see him. All right, well, that's pretty much it. So I want to wish you and your family a happy holiday and a happy New Year. And
can't wait.
I can't believe the time went that quickly. To everybody that's out there that watches, thank you for checking out the show and supporting us. And we appreciate it. And we'll come back with some nice topics for the new year and be refreshed. Take a couple weeks off from this, and I'll miss it. So I enjoy these conversations with my friend Brad here, and with everybody that joins in, and that's what makes it so much fun. So thank you for that. Thank you for another great year of doing this. Brian, what does he say here? Scott was working men's league exclusively from the neutral zone. Yes. Because the most important thing in the men's league game is to get the offsides right, okay? Get the icing and the offsides right. That's the trick.
Are you operating off the old "the puck will come back to me eventually" idea here?
Probably.
Is that what you're doing? If they score, they'll shoot it out to me. It's okay.
That's right. You get them to pick it up. When you got to do all those solo games, you haven't picked the puck up for you, man. Come on. These guys are great. No. Okay. All right. Listen, with that being said, I'll see you next year, my friend. Well, I'll talk to you before that. But everybody else, we'll see you next year. Again, thanks for everything. From Chicago, I'm Scott Smokin Silz, along with Brad Baumruck. Don't forget, we do this every Monday, 5:30 p.m. Chicago time, which is Central. Please hit the notification button and the subscribe button. If you haven't, give us a thumbs up. We'll take a thumbs up from you. Everything helps the algorithms. You can watch the replays, of course, from more than 150 shows. They're up online at youtube.com/refroom. All right. Have a great year. Happy holidays, everybody. Take care. We'll see you.